Will Oklahoma have a top 7 or top front 7 in the SEC next year? We'll discuss coming up next here on Locked On Sooners.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Again, thanks for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there. Tune in and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. Hit that notification bell to let you know when new episodes drop. The importance of bringing back R. Mason Thomas, I don't think can be understated, because if you don't bring him back, you're looking at being very, very young and potentially inexperienced. Even though you bring in a guy like Marvin Jones Jr., he's got kind of one season of okay production.
Yep.
Otherwise, you're looking to be really, really young. And as we get into this discussion of can Oklahoma have one of the best or the best front 7 in the SEC, I don't think we can understate the loss of Ethan Downs, a guy who was very experienced and very consistent. Sure, you don't have 9 sacks out of Ethan Downs, but you had 5.5, 5.5, 3.5 in the last 3 seasons.
Yep.
And he was one of your better run defenders during his time at Oklahoma. So as they look to replace him and figure out who's going to be that other defensive end opposite of R. Mason Thomas, that's going to be an important piece to remember, is they're going to look for somebody that can consistently set the edge and play the run. So Jay, let's look at this though, because Oklahoma had a really, really good front 7 last year, but they lost Danny Stutzman. You lose Dejon Terry. You lose Ethan Downs, Trace Ford, Caden Woolard. Some big pieces out of your front 7. We like who they got. We like who they got.
No, go ahead.
But what do you think they've got to do? Who's got to step up for them to have the top front 7 in the SEC?
Yeah, looking at that, I've been looking at the roster and trying to figure out, okay, what's the configuration going to look like? Now, of course, granted, this is us, theory crafting here, which is always fun, but Dominic Williams coming back is huge. That takes care of one spot that made you a little bit concerned. You'll have him as well as Jaden Jackson, your freshman All-American, which we expected him to be right back, get him taken care of, as everybody was trying to get their hands on him. But I think that interior piece, I think you're good. You're probably going to need at least one more body. Trent Wilson comes in as your only 2025 guy, even though you were going after 3. You're probably going to need one more guy that's going to have at least 4 years of eligibility just to make sure that you shore that up. Now, granted, I do expect in 2026 for the Sooners to be very busy in the recruiting trail, trying to get some, really good defensive tackles to come in to add to the room just so you had depth. But when you look back at the 23 and the 24 classes, you really did pick up a lot of interior and, front 7 guys with Daniel Koye. We've talked about him and PJ Adebaware, Wyatt Gilmore, Taylor Wine. That's 4 names right there to keep in mind as playing a combination of edge and interior. And then Nigel Smith right there that's going to be playing a little bit more inside, it sounds like, in comparison to edge. So I think from there, you're going to be good as far as depth goes, and you may actually have some competitive depth that you can rotate through. Linebacker is where I've always been wondering about, because Kip and Kobe probably have maybe a year, maybe 2 left for both of them. Bringing in Kendal Daniels gets you another big linebacker that can play now. Like, I hated losing to Son McCullough. He was the one dude that I was really excited about, especially because his size. It makes it difficult to throw passes, especially when you get talk about the quarterbacks we're going to be dealing with here in the SEC. They're gonna find a way to get the ball around him. He's a giant. You got to know where he's at and say, I can't throw that direction. He's going to bat the ball down. So for Oklahoma, the key thing is going to be, what does it look like from that cheetah role? Who do you want to rotate? Because I still feel like Samuel Mosigo is probably better suited playing your linebacker, or he could be your quote-unquote bigger cheetah. I don't see him as the coverage guy. I see Powers being your coverage cheetah, while Dobie gets more healthy, unless you decide to slide Dobie over there at the corner spot. I'm really excited about this this front 7, John. I have the question, though, who's going to really pull the Dejon Terry role?
I mean, that's, Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson. I mean, those 2 guys are going to be your primary nose tackles.
Yeah.
I would like to see them add another nose tackle that allows Jaden Jackson to play some more 3 technique. But to me, your defensive tackle rotation is Dominic Williams, Jaden Jackson, and then at the 3 technique, you're looking at Grayson Halton and David Stone. Like those are the guys that I'm expecting to play a lot and get a lot of your defensive tackle snaps. And if that's your 4-man rotation, you're looking really good. And then on the edge, again, we have a little bit of question on one side, but R. Mason Thomas is going to be dynamic once again. Now, teams are going to try to throw more double teams and triple teams at him to prevent him from just wrecking shop. But that just creates opportunity for everybody else along the defensive front. And it's going to be up to the defensive coordinator and Miguel Chavis to put R. Mason Thomas in positions where he's going to be able to succeed. And we saw that. They moved him around. They put him on both sides of the defensive line and allowed him to attack an offensive line's weakness. And sometimes go up against one of their best, offensive tackles, and he was having success. So I think the defensive front is fine. I think it's going to be really, really good. You need to see PJ Adebawore step up. You need to see Danny Okoye step up and begin to earn some significant run on the defense. But I really, really like the defensive end rotation. I really, really I love the defensive tackle rotation. Like it's the best it's been in a really, really long time. And we're just scratching the surface with Jaden Jackson and David Stone. And I think Grayson Halton, I think that dude, he had a big year. It's kind of flown under the radar because of how good everybody else was around him, right? How good R. Mason Thomas was. Obviously how good Danny Stutzman was. The breakout from Jaden Jackson, the just consistent, solid play of guys like Dominic Williams and Ethan Downs. Grayson Halton had 5 sacks this year. That's really good for a defensive tackle. And 30 total tackles. Like, that's really good. The guy that, just like R. Mason Thomas, we'd expected him to have this breakout year maybe in 2023, but he was still just figuring some stuff out. And then it came in 2024. So all these guys that are second and third year guys, especially those guys that are third year guys, I'm expecting like a PJ Adebawore. I'm expecting him. Now at this point, you're at the point in your career where you've got to be playing significant snaps for this defense. You've got to be ready to go in 2025. We need to see your athleticism, your length out there on the field, creating problems for opposing offensive lines. Now's the time for you. If it's ever going to come together, now's the time. Now, I know you got multiple years left of eligibility, but still, your team needs you now to step up and be a big-time playmaker for them.
Yeah, that's the one player that we know that is slated to have the biggest year is PJ, him. And I think Danny Okoye is going to really have his breakout year. He's a true freshman last year, and I totally understand. He may have a little frustration that he wants to get out there on the field, but you're a true freshman. You got to not only know the plays and know what you're supposed to do, but it takes time to get you going. And we saw that out of Dylan Stewart. I think Dylan Stewart's just a different animal out there at edge. But I think Danny can be that exact same thing, especially with his strength and his ability. We just got to see him get some bend in there and get around those edges and cause issues. This is the year where Danny's going to get a lot of opportunity. So him and PJ are the ones that really are going to determine if this can be a top front 7 in the SEC. If those two show out right behind Marvin Jones Jr. and R. Mason Thomas, we're going to have that because we already know Jaden Jackson's already rated up there. Dominic told us before the season started this dude's going to be an All-American. He didn't just say freshman. He said All-American, John. So when he said that, I was like, oh. You got some. No, that's some big praise. Let's see if this happens. And sure enough, this dude becomes a freshman All-American. So, Jaden Jackson's going to be that. Dominic's going to show up because he's shown out. He showed up this season. Grayson Halton, as you mentioned, with 5.5 sacks this season, which is pretty darn good for an interior guy. And you still got 5-star in David Stone that we know has the talent. He's just got to get his weight up and get to pushing people around. So that spot, I feel like Stone's going to be your guy that's probably going to have the breakout season because Grayson had his last year. But if those edges show up, they're definitely going to be it. And Kip and Kobe, we know, are really good. Adding Kendal Daniels with Samuel Masigo, oh gosh. The Sooners will have the argument for the best front 7 in the SEC. Absolutely no problem. And I cannot wait to read Phil Steele's rankings for this team because he was spot on. We had one of the best linebacker rooms in the SEC. He gave us as one of the better secondaries, but we dealt with all those injuries. We didn't get Gentry back, so we didn't get to see that come to fruition like we would like. But Eli Bowen did come out of nowhere. So there's a good chance that he's going to be like, hey, if Gentry is healthy with Eli as a freshman All-American, Sooners going to have the best secondary too.
Man,
I hope
it can't get here fast enough, man. I'm ready to see this defense take on all comers because I think they're going to be really good again. Now it's just a matter of can the offense pull its weight. I think everybody's at this point. The defense is going to be really good. Can the offense pull its weight? And we think it's going to be able to. And again, it doesn't even have to be Baker Mayfield, Kyler Murray level of offense. It just has to be good,
competent,
just good.
Just show up.
Just get
first downs.
Just get some first downs. Just
convert on third. That's all we ask for.
27 points per game. That's all I'm asking for. 27 points per game, and Oklahoma is going to be a 9-win team. And that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Sooners. Thanks so much for tuning in and being a part of the show. Subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcasts. We're free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. So hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports. Check out his channel over on YouTube, Unfair Sports. Follow me at John 9 Williams. And then the show is at Locked On Sooners on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, whatever you like to do for social media. But until next time, he's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. Boomer
Sooner.